Blind babies looking for food, starvation, the recipe, people subdued. When the people you trust got it in for you. Deceit is the word of the day and every clue. Don't let it go, it's from the days of old. Time is up, but some still do not know. Can I make up my mind? Is it worth the dime? Do I have to take a minute just to make it mine? Life's never fair, but don't listen to the TV. Go out and take a listen to the streets with the people in the slums and the homeless bums with degrees and degrees sitting under a tree. It's not easy in the world for the poor man, the one that brought you to reality. See, they don't want you to know about the black sheep, leaving 7 roads to the 12 families all around the globe with an ancient code. Is it really asking a lot to say a death old? Cause we sitting on the earth looking back at extinct, and I'm standing on some ground that's about to sink. I ain't scared for a minute, I ain't about to blink, but I documented for the world what I see and think. Feel we on the call and I feel we on the break. All Congress gonna do is waste paper and ink. Vote or die, you voted and you'll die. You can have it both ways, can't say it's a lie. You can march all you want, but they playing you wrong. They only understand war, it's the same old song. They want war, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. War, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. Like the lotus coming out of the mud with colors, I create envy in those with power but jealous. I unify the poor with my song, the hell with the others. Descended the way they treat indigenous brothers, cause I understand we link forever. They try to hate us even though that we keep it together. I'm not talking about controlling the air or the weather, I'm talking about maintaining the truth, the high endeavor. A rebel drops bombs in the midst of trouble. The free world counterattack and now there's double, but nature gets the shit in the way that's subtle. If you stop the machines for a minute you might hear, but they won't cause the TV's whisper in the ear. And capitalism has eyes that don't tear, and they cloud up and get crazy and won't steer. And like an ab, it's hard to get an ass to listen. Living like this is like living in prison. It's hard to keep hope when you're living in prison. The spiritual thoughts, so yes, the mental prison. The outside, yes, it's got to get through. Something's gotta die so something here can live. Your life is nothing if you got nothing to give. Keeping the spiritual, yes, disguised as religion. Controlling your mind, the mental prison. They want war, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. War, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war.
Alrighty, yes y'all, it is Wednesday the 15th, and today is supposed to be payday. Today's supposed to be payday for a lot of folk, for ICE particularly. Today, payday is ICE day. It's ICE's payday for those of y'all that don't know. Now, it is 8:31 a.m. in EU, Western European time, and it is 2:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, USA. And I guess for those of y'all in Cali, what is it, 3-hour difference out there in Cali? That would make it 11 p.m., something like that in Cali time, Arizona time, out there on the west side, right? Now, big up to everybody. And those of y'all in Asia, what time is it in Asia right now? What time is it in Australia, Japan, China? You know, I mean, it's the time differs, obviously. And it's some of y'all out there, it's like 11, I believe, 11 o'clock out there in certain parts of Asia. So, you know, the sun rises early. And the stock market is doing what it do. And I hope those of you that have invested in it know what you're doing, because it's some interesting times. The lithium stock, Argentina has actually gone up. But you know what that's about? That's Elon Musk territory. That's China territory. And they're going to make it do what it do, actually, for their interest, personal interest. You know, China's got its national interest. Elon Musk has his personal interest. And that ain't necessarily got a lot to do with Americans. Elon Musk has 3 citizenships, so he's free to just do whatever the hell he wants, and to do it with the national spirit of all 3 nations together, if you can believe it. But in any case, there's a little bit for the folks that invested some in Argentina lithium mines, like myself, by the way, but I didn't do it for the same reasons. I'm just an average everyday person. I knew when Trump was coming in. I know what the Trump agenda is. I took the Trump agenda serious. And so I did know that he was going to come in on the anti-green energy move. Right. I expected that. So I knew that the companies in the U.S. that had invested in green energy, I knew they would take a hit. But you got to understand, these companies are global. They don't just operate in the U.S. They operate outside of the U.S. So they're surviving, even though their stocks took a hit. So what I'm saying to y'all is you might want to look into it. You might want to invest a little bit while those stocks are low, while Trump is in office, because my prediction, and again, I'm not a stock advisor, I'm just a person who invests myself. My prediction is that once you get past all this Trump shit, it's going to skyrocket. Because listen, the truth of the matter is that you could talk all the shit about competing against China. You could talk all the shit about China being a threat and all this shit. If you ain't invested in green energy, you ain't doing an MFing thing about China. Like, seriously, they're about to own your ass because they invested in these alternative energies, and they did it not just in creating the energy, but making machinery that operates on that energy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, from point A to point Z, giving you the whole thing, and the U.S. under Trump declined to even enter into that market. It's pretending to be kind of shy, and, you're going to play catch up. But the U.S. can do that. The U.S. got 350 million people backing it with its federal tax dollars. Yes, a very lucky nation. The business people of the United States are very lucky because they get federal handouts from 350 million dedicated American citizens that love going to work 1 or 2 extra hours a week for a little bit less than everybody else. So that is a blessing. But in any case, on to, yes, USA. Let's be proud about this. If you're going to do it, be proud about it, or don't do it at all, like some have chosen not to do. But in any case, today's program is really about, hey, do you believe that our military should be paid during this shutdown in the USA? If you believe the military, despite your political affiliation, you can be, and I'm asking this to American citizens, even though we got a lot of people listening from different parts of the world. But you American citizens that are listening, despite your Republican affiliation or your far right MAGA, also, because there's a difference there, and despite the Democrat, all Democrats are Antifa, by the way, because that just means anti-fascist. You would hope you defeated fascists before. You would hope you would still be against them. But hey, times change. But even the Dems, even the independents, those of you that are unaffiliated with either party or whatever, do you think the United States military should get paid even in a government shutdown? If you do, let me know your opinion about that. And if you do, if you want to make your opinion simple, put a 1 in the chat, because I will be checking that out. That's easier to follow than, long sentences and all of that. And put a 2 if you don't. Just curious about that right off of the bat. And if you come into the live late, I'm going to ask again periodically. Now, myself, I do personally, and I'm going to qualify that. I'm not talking about ICE. I'm not talking about the National Guard, because there's some differences there, and who regulates them, who runs them, and their purpose, right? What their purpose is. Now, but there is no mistake about the military. The military protects us from foreign, attack, from foreign adversaries. They protect us from a nuclear strike. They protect us from, missile strikes. They protect us from all types of attacks. So I believe the military should get their checks, and I believe people should be a little more, should have a way of doing it, but it's very nuanced because you don't want a tyrannical government just getting paid. Yeah, you want everybody having some checks and balances, and I believe that's also good too. But in terms of this one, what's happened lately is that there was a Democrat who tried to pull a bill up onto the floor, and the Republicans didn't want to do it. And the bill was only about doing what? The bill was only about making sure that the military gets paid. Yeah, it's true. It was only about getting the military paid. And for some reason, the Republicans shut it down. They didn't want to do that. Now, and I myself, I don't understand that. I don't really understand it. To me, that seems like crybaby running scared. Ain't nobody home but us chickens, boss, type of activity. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're just not able to assemble around nothing, And regardless of what you think about ICE, because ICE has a particular job, right? Regardless of what you think about the National Guard being sent all over the country, different from Texas, the governor of Texas, yo, fuck the governor of Texas. What business you got going into Illinois, governor of Texas? Mind your goddamn business. You are a state, by the way. You're not a country. You see what I mean? So I can understand that being different from the military, right? And there needing to be really serious checks and balances on that, especially if you live inside of the U.S. God damn, you want a governor sending his own National Guard to your goddamn state, even though you don't agree with his ass, even though you have your own National Guard? That's a recipe for disaster. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about just the actual USA military. Now, let's take a little read here. And then I brought up some data, but I do have some other things we're going to review. Letitia James gave a hell of a speech in New York City. What else? There's loads of stuff. Oh, yeah, we're going to review some of the healthcare because this is what is at the tip of the spear in terms of the shutdown regarding the Dems. The Dems, the Republicans can actually get money and get people paid, but obviously they ran on a platform of firing people, loads of people, hundreds of thousands of people, government workers. So that's their platform. So they don't mind the shutdown as much. But for the Democrats, essentially their issue is the health care. So we're going to touch on healthcare, take a closer look, because I don't really feel like people really understand what they're doing. Americans pay way more for healthcare than anybody else. And you got to ask yourself why. And at the same time that they pay way more than anybody else, far less people are getting access to it. And you have to ask yourself, for me, paying more, I could see the point if it covered everybody, but it actually doesn't. You're paying more for covering less people. And this is crazy, but let's take a look at this. So, New York Post, and keep in mind, this is the New York Post. This is the guy that ran this used to be Donald Trump's friend. Donald Trump, this connects, the New York Post, if I believe connects to what was that model or porn star Donald Trump had an affair with, and Donald Trump tried to pay. Yes, Michael Cohen or whatever tried to pay money to keep them, the Stormy Daniels thing, and they kept it out for a while because they were friends with Donald Trump. Yes, this is the same Post. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I got my source here to the left, so I can always look it up. But you let me know if I'm wrong. But in any case, New York Post tends to be very conservative. Now, here they just ran this article, which says how Speaker Mike Johnson, this was last week, right? This is just before the weekend, rejects standalone bill to pay U.S. troops. Add feds should get back pay, right, as shutdown drags on. Now, let's see here. Here we go. Stop right there. Oh, what's this going on here? Oops. Here we go. Okay. Speaker Mike Johnson rejected voting on a standalone bill to fund U.S. military members' salaries on Wednesday as the federal government shutdown entered its second week. Johnson pointed out during a press conference that the 7-week stopgap funding measure passed by the House on September 19th would have funded troops' pay. Right, would have, but, this is the whole point of this one because there's a shutdown. We already had a vote. You see, the House Speaker said every Republican and at least one Democrat had the common sense to say, of course, we want the government to stay in operation. You see, so in other words, he knows that the government went into shutdown over the cost and a few other things, but primarily over the cost of health care that was in this past bill that was passed. And they're saying, whoa. That's got to change because it turns out Americans will be paying 20 to 60% more. More people will be thrown off of health care, and the people that are lucky enough to have health care will be kicked out of their homes. Literally. So it simply doesn't work. And what does he do? Instead of address the common issue that everyone is going to, even though you already pay more than anyone else in the world for health care, just simple health care, you pay more. Everybody pays more, way more, right? Even though every other Western government takes in more people, even lower class people, even migrants, the same way, according to the same rule book, pay way less, right? So all of that said, he wants to make it even more expensive. That's what they did. That's what they did in that big, beautiful bill, that bill they call beautiful, Now, Johnson pointed out, okay, we already had that vote. The House Speaker said every Republican, blah, blah, blah. Of course, we want to pay our troops and our air traffic controllers. They fired TSA air traffic controllers on day one. Soon as Trump came in office, you saw airplanes crashing. Literally, you saw helicopters crashing into airplanes crashing for weeks and weeks and weeks. And they just sat there like, oh, well, that's no, okay. And then what did they say? Well, how many airplanes crashed under Obama? Of course, they always got to run that game, right? But this is literally, they said no to this bill. So today's the 15th. Today, I believe that was September 30th. This is the first time today everyone will be affected by this shutdown. If you weren't affected before, you're going to be affected today. Military, ICE, National Guard. It's not the police, state police, because they get paid by their own state tax dollars. You will be affected. And that's today. And there's been no agreement today. So your check didn't go out, and it ain't going to go out today because they don't work in the middle of the night, especially the Republicans, right? They won't be getting that check. And ICE, contrary to popular belief, they don't really fucking get paid that much. It depends on what you think a good salary is. I don't really think $70,000 is really a great salary when you live in the country that costs the most to live in. See, inflation is insane in the United States. You got people traveling an hour to go to work from ICE already just because they don't want to pay that money what it costs to live in a city, to live in an urban environment. It costs millions of dollars if you want to buy a house in an urban environment, in a city, in a big city. It costs $1 million pretty much. In a lot of these cities, it ain't cheap. You see what I mean? So a lot of these ICE people like to live outside, drive in an hour, blah, 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 drive home an hour, all of this stuff. These ICE people, they will be paying 20 to 60%. Just like everybody else in the United States of America, no matter what your background is, 20 to 60% more for health care. And they only getting paid like $70,000, $80,000. I'm talking about the ones on the street, the ones you see on the street. I'm not talking about in the executive office. I'm not talking about, the ones that are sitting back directing traffic, maybe. I'm talking about these people that they just hired out there. It ain't really that much. It's not real. I'm from Washington, D.C. I'm sorry. That ain't really that much. That might be something special somewhere else. In Washington, D.C., 60, 70,000, that just means you got a rate. That just means you got an education. That's the starting salary. You see what I mean? But these ICE people, starting salary for somebody sitting behind a desk, that ain't considered shit, to be honest with you. In DC, you need two of those to live nice in DC. Two of those salaries to have a nice family. One of those salaries ain't going to get you far in DC. Now, here we go. Let's see here. House Democrats are clamoring to get back here and have another vote. Well, that vote didn't happen. That vote didn't happen at all. So let's take a look.
Pay our military act.
Now, this is what the act was about. The Pay Our Military Act, just so people get an idea of what it is. And again, you can dispute the details all you want, but this is the general idea. Now let's listen.
Introduced by Representative Amelia Sykes, 0813, aims to ensure that U.S. military personnel continue to receive their pay during a government shutdown. Bill specifies that appropriations for military pay and allowances apply to members of the armed forces, including reserve components, who perform active service during the shutdown period, alien personnel and contractors of the Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security, in the case of the Coast Guard, who are providing support to such members of the armed forces. Regard Congress.gov situation is more complex. National Guard members are typically paid under Title 32 of the U.S. Code, which allows them to serve under state authority but be federally funded. However, during a federal government shutdown, these service members may not receive pay until appropriations are restored. For instance, approximately 400 National Guard troops deployed to Chicago in response to protests at ICE facilities were working without pay as of early October 2025. They were last paid on September 30th, will remain unpaid until congressional appropriations are restored. As for ICE, Immigration and Customs San Antonio Express.
Now keep in mind, all the governors, the governor that sent his National Guard from Texas to Chicago, he already knew this because it's his actual job to know the law. So he already knew this. He knew he was sending his troops out, but yet Congress would have to approve funding, continuation of any funding. They would have to make pass some laws before anybody gets paid anyway. But he sent them out because in his mind, he wanted to make a political point. He wanted to send his Texas National Guard, which Texas National Guard, they're a state that gets more federal dollar aid than they generate. He wanted to send his National Guard to another state that generates more federal dollars than they use, a giver state, Illinois, right? Who has their own National Guard, which the governor said, we don't need you, don't send it. This is what's going on. So just to give you the backdrop.
Express News. They are federal employees who typically continue to work during a government shutdown, but do not receive paychecks until appropriations are restored. However, they are generally guaranteed back pay once the sheshbachi ends. In summary, the Pay Our Military Act is designed to ensure Dispatch.com personnel and certain civilian support staff continue to receive their pay during a government shutdown. National Guard members and ICE agents may not receive pay during a shutdown, but are equally guaranteed back pay once appropriations are restored.
Right, so here was a chance.
The Pay Our Military Act was blocked from a...
Here was a chance for the military. That's the people that are defending the country from foreign attacks. That's people that are outside on ships in the Navy. That's Marines that are out there and active duty. That's Army that's in different countries, South Korea, blah, 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 Middle East, Eastern Europe, anywhere in the world, South America, anywhere. Submarines out there patrolling the waters, Air Force out there flying around. All of those people, they didn't get paid because this didn't get passed. It could have been passed, but they didn't want to hear it. The Republicans, they wanted them to also not get paid because of the shutdown. So the Republicans are saying, hey, you're either going to pay 20 to 60% more, everybody, in healthcare expenses, or you're just going to have the shutdown. That's basically where Republicans are holding the line. If Democrats pass this, if they sign on to what the Republicans asked, not only will you get higher prices, not only will you continue to get the inflation that you're getting, but your health care will be inflated 20 to 60% more if you're even lucky enough to have health care. So, but this didn't get passed. So now all that's happening is, instead of it just being ICE running around the country, violating the Fourth Amendment that doesn't get paid, instead of it just being, National Guard, like the Texas National Guard being sent to Illinois when Illinois didn't want them, instead of it just being them that don't get paid, it's also the military who's protecting the country that doesn't get paid. And that was a choice. Here's the choice.
The U.S. House of Representatives on October 10th, 2025, during a pro forma session. Sarah Elfrith, D&D, attempted to pass the bill by unanimous consent, but Repres's Mike Bost, R.Ill, who was presiding over the session, gavelled it to a close before Elfrith could complete her request. Bo Ater explained that he was representing the Speaker and that the House was in a perfunctory session, not a formal legislative one. Fox News IRI personnel would be paid if Senate Democrats supported the House's previous funding bill. They view the Democrats' push.
The big, beautiful bill. You see, the big, beautiful bill that is going to raise your health care 20 to 60% if you're lucky.
Push for a standing military pay bill as a political maneuver rather than a genuine effort to resolve the issue.
So you see, Republicans are flip-flopping. They're saying we can't accommodate that vote here anyway, right? Because we need to be in full session. Right. And we're not happening because we don't want to go into full session because the government is shut down, although we get paid to be in full session. Right. Now they're flipping. Now it's not that. That's not the issue anymore. Now the issue is that's just a Democratic stunt. Right. So you see, they flip flop in their responses to what it is. Oh, is it a Democratic stunt? Is it a stunt? OK, well, if you call not being paid a stunt because you need more congressional members to agree with you, okay, that sounds to me like everything that happens in Congress is a stunt.
In response to the looming October 15th, Fox News TM directed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to use available funds to ensure military personnel are paid despite the shutdown. This move has raised legal concerns under the Anti-Deficiency Act, which prohibits federal entities from spending money not appropriated by Congress. The situation remains fluid, with ongoing debates over how to end Fox News IRI personnel during.
Facts. So there you have it. So that's the background to this shutdown, right? Now, so for me, I'm a Democrat, but I don't vote Dem. I vote issues. Republicans want you to pay more for your health care. I'm against that. Therefore, I don't support their big, ugly bill. It's that simple, and, I also don't support dumbasses like the governor of Texas being a taker state, a state that generates less federal dollars for the United States of America to operate than they use, sending his own National Guard to another state that has their own National Guard that generates more federal tax dollars than they use, a giver state, Illinois. I'm also against that. I don't care what party you're with. I'm against that kind of shit because that kind of shit is stupid. It's just irrational. Makes zero sense. Just like not wanting to have to have flood warnings in Texas, that makes zero sense because people will get killed. It's just that simple. Government is there to make people's lives easier, not harder. So in any case, on to the next one, because there's a whole lot going on here. Let me see. Before I get into the more serious matters, guess what happened in the United States Congress in the last 24 hours. Look at this shit. Somebody's getting chased down. I was like, goddamn. Yes, they chasing Mike Johnson's ass down. They are all up inside of the Capitol while they're being paid to be at work. And Maga Mike Johnson is nowhere to be found. Check this out. See, the Capitol is not actually shut down. Congress is not actually, Congress gets paid while ICE doesn't get paid, while the National Guard doesn't get paid, right? While now the military also won't get paid because the Republicans didn't want to hear the bill, right? Guess who's at work? Democrats are there. They're there. They're running all around the Capitol like they getting paid because they are getting paid. And guess who's paying them? You are. If you're an American citizen, whether you fucking like it or not, whether you're independent, Democrat, Republican, or whether you don't vote at all, your goddamn ass is paying for them. And they're at work. Same for the Republicans who are not showing up to the Capitol. You're paying them too. You're also paying for Caroline Levitt, lying ass. You're also paying for Donald Trump. Somebody came to my page the other day and is like, Trump never accepted a payment. He never accepted a payment, man. He don't get paid. No, Trump also gets paid. What he does with that money, you don't have any clue if he donates that money or not because you're not wanting to know. You're not demanding to know, and you don't even have a fucking right to know. But you do know this, by law, the man gets paid. It's just that simple. Now, Maga Mike Johnson gets paid too. But Maga Mike Johnson is not to be found here. He's like, ain't nobody here but us chickens, boys. Look.
Okay, we're going upstairs, and the speaker's office is right. I know, okay, ready? It's right here. To the right. Wait, we did not think this went off the bat. Well, I think it was just so that we're because it's 2 more channels.
Here are some Democrats. They're getting paid and they're marching up the stairs of the Capitol, the interior, looking for Mike Johnson, who's nowhere to be found. Mike Johnson's getting a check. He's nowhere to be found. He's not even in the building. Look, watch this. This is wild. I hear you, Lorraine.
Swear her in. 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 Swear her in.
Damn, that was it? That didn't continue? Okay, well, listen. She gave a speech in front of Maga Mike Johnson's office, and she's basically saying now she's been confirmed by her own government, right? By her own governor, by the state's legislator. It's 100%. This lady won the election by a 40% margin. She is still not been sworn in. Maga Mike Johnson said last week that it can happen whenever she wants. Then a day later, he flipped it and said, it's not going to happen until because the government is shut down. Like, it means he doesn't get paid to do his fucking job. Part of his job is swearing people in. That's specifically his job he gets paid for, swearing people in. It has nothing to do with anybody else All he's got to do is be in office that day, walk into the room that he walks into every fucking day that's empty and say, here, here, boom, boom, she's sworn in. That's it. It takes 2 minutes. And Maga Mike Johnson is nowhere to be found. But guess who is somewhere to be found? You are, the taxpayer, who pays Maga Mike Johnson no matter if you like his policies or not. You pay him, and his ass ain't at work. Yeah, he's somewhere else. Maybe he was back home. Maybe he flew home on that private jet. Who knows? But somebody showed up to work, and that was the result of it. Now, let me see here. Marjorie Greene Taylor had some words to say. Now, she's a Republican, and, yeah, she helped out Donald Trump a whole goddamn lot. I don't like her. I don't agree with her on a whole lot of shit. I think she basically didn't know what the hell she was talking about a lot of the time. Keep in mind, to be an elected official, all you have to do is be an American, a citizen at this point. That's it. If you're getting paid by the federal government, all you need to do is to be an American citizen. You really don't need anything else but votes. You don't have to know a goddamn thing. In other words, you could basically be a rat, a dog, a chimpanzee, a gerbil. You could have the brain of a marshmallow. It doesn't matter. As long as you're a citizen, and people vote for you, that's what you get. But on this matter, you let me know. Is Marjorie Greene Taylor lying to your federal tax-paying asses? Or is she telling the truth? You tell me. I think she might be telling the truth. I don't think it's really hard to know that truth that she's telling. I think you full of shit if you don't acknowledge that Marjorie Greene Taylor is telling the truth. But I don't expect MAGA folk to be serious about anything anyway.
With regard to the subsidies, remember, that is 100% a red herring. It's a distraction. This is what Chuck Schumer and the Democrats put together to try to make the issue of the day.
He said the issue of the subsidies, you couldn't hear it. So he said the issue of the subsidies is a red herring. And it's something essentially that Chuck Schumer and Democrats are talking about right now.
Well, no, the issues of the subsidies are real. It's not something that anybody can say is made up. Also, people with regular or private plans, their premiums are looking to go up a median of 18%. That's brutal. I know a lot of small business owners, like a family of 4, and they're paying $2,000 a month. $2,000 a month with deductibles of $7,000 to $10,000, and approximately 40% of these people don't even use their health insurance. So they're just burning money just in case they might have cancer, or just in case they have a terrible car accident. And then you've got single moms, many Americans that are really struggling that are on the ACA. If you double their health insurance or even triple it, these people they're either gonna have to drop it, or they're gonna be choosing between rent and their health.
Okay, is Marjorie Greene Taylor lying, or is she telling the truth? If Marjorie Greene Taylor is telling the truth, put a 1 in the chat. If she's lying her ass off, put a 2 in the chat. I'm going to put a 1 in the chat because although I never really liked her at all anyway, on this particular issue, I think she actually grew some integrity. I think she actually did some research. So I'm putting 1 in the chat. I believe she's telling the truth. If you believe she's a lying ass, put a 2 in the chat. That's all on you. And all the other answers, we'll deal with that later. But again, a 1 in the chat if Marjorie Greene Taylor is telling the truth. She's a Republican, right? And she was a staunch MAGA supporter. Is she telling the truth? Put a 1 in the chat if she's telling the truth. If she is not, and she's lying her ass off, put a 2 in the chat. I'll wait. Just curious to see what folks think. Me, again, like I said, I'll support a Republican any day of the week if they stand on integrity, if they spit facts, if they're doing something to help the value of the American people's lives. If they're harming it, I don't give a fuck who you are or your party. I don't have no loyalty to it. Okay, so listen, there's I see a lot of people don't want to say one or two. So again, I will remind folks, if you think, regardless of your political affiliation, if you believe she is speaking facts, I'll play it again. Put a 1 in the chat. If you think she's lying her ass off, put a 2. Let's play it again.
With regard to the subsidies, remember, that is 100% a red herring. It's a distraction. This is what Chuck Schumer and the Democrats put together to try to make the issue of the day.
He said the issue of the subsidies, that you couldn't hear it, so he said the issue of the subsidies is a red herring. And it's something essentially that Chuck Schumer and Democrats are talking about right now.
Well, no, the issues of the
So she was asked, she said, Maga Mike Johnson is saying that is a red herring. In his words, that means distraction, what Democrats are talking about when they're saying you will pay 20 to 60% more in health care costs if they agree with the Republicans and open up the government. And her answer is, he said, yeah, Chuck Schumer and blah, blah, blah. You know, he if he had time, he would have thrown in Kamala Harris, Obama, you know, the regular names that he throws in to diminish concepts and ideas. But here is Marjorie Greene's response to that.
subsidies are real. It's not, well, no, the issues of the subsidies are real. It's not something that anybody can say is made up. Also, people with regular or private plans, their premiums are looking to go up a median of 18%. That's brutal. I know a lot of small business owners, like a family of 4, and they're paying $2,000 a month. $2,000 a month with deductibles of $7,000 to $10,000, and approximately 40% of these people don't even use their health insurance, so they're just burning money just in case they might have cancer, or just in case they have a.
Now, you know, she's also bringing up an extremely important point here. When you have health care insurance, you pay in. It has nothing to do with whether you're using it or not. Whether you need to go to a hospital, a lot of people pay into this fund, right? Even though they don't use it. I myself, I pay into it. Comes through my taxes in Denmark. It's taken out deductibles through my in taxes. A certain percent of the tax goes to the healthcare institutions here, right? Now, then you can also get some private care on the side, you know, insurance that you take care of and things like that, and you get some benefits from that too, regarding medication, even though the medication and stuff is really, really low here, right? But in any case, a lot of people pay in and don't ever use it. So how come that money that they pay in and never use, how come that doesn't go to keep the costs down? Since since a lot of these people aren't using it. Doesn't that make sense? Why? You see, she brought up an excellent point. That's because they're fucking scamming you. And Republicans have always wanted to turn healthcare into a private industry. They wanted to privatize it. Why? Because when you privatize it, you can fucking charge as much as you want. You see, it doesn't have to make sense. It's just like a bottle of wine. Could be made out of the same grapes, could be the same amount of time, could be put into it, same amount of, technical skills and things like that. But the name could be different. The name could mean the difference in how much you pay, like flat out. Because keep in mind, like most governments, and in the United States of America, the United States government is making all of the breakthroughs in healthcare, in science. And then they're patenting these things. And then they're allowing private companies to get access to the information and make money off of it. So it's actually your tax dollars providing a lot of the breakthroughs in the first place for the healthcare industry, whether you're talking about machinery, technique, tools, trades, medicine, any of this stuff. Like, just keep in mind what she just said. Listen to this carefully. With regard to the
subsidies, remember, that is 100% a red herring. It's a distraction. This is what Chuck Schumer and the Democrats put together to try to make the issue of the day.
He said the issue of the subsidies, that you couldn't hear it, so he said the issue of the subsidies is a red herring. And it's something essentially that Chuck Schumer and Democrats are talking about right now.
Well, no, the issues of the subsidies are real. It's not something that anybody can say is made up. Also, people with regular or private plans, their premiums are looking to go up a median of 18%. That's brutal. I know a lot of small business owners, like a family of four, and they're paying $2,000 a month. $2,000 a month with deductibles of $7,000 to $10,000, and approximately 40% of these people don't even use their health insurance. So they're just burning money just in case they might have cancer, or just in case they have a terrible car accident. And then you've got single moms, many Americans that are really struggling that are on the ACA. If you double their health insurance or even triple it, these people are they're either gonna have to drop it, or they're gonna be choosing between rent and their health.
Right. So that's Marjorie Green Taylor, or Taylor Green, whatever her name is. Let's keep it real. I don't really know. I'm not a Marjorie Green Taylor fan myself, but it's worth noting that she was one of Trump's staunchest allies to get him reelected. And she has been a staunch MAGA supporter. But where she differs with a lot of MAGA people is on this healthcare thing. So if you're a MAGA person and you don't care about it, and you don't believe her, and you don't think the Democrats should should not keep the government shut down, but should not go along with the Republicans' big beautiful bill that she's talking about that will increase your healthcare costs. If you don't agree with her, then hey, it's all good. I mean, keep in mind, I'm an American citizen, but I don't live in the United States of America. I'm born and raised in Washington, D.C. Freedman's Hospital, by the way, for those of you that know a little D.C. history, you might know what hospital that is today. But outside of that, on both sides of my family, they come from the colonial period in the United States. But I just so happen to live outside of the United States. So I have universal health care, and the way it's organized, it's much different. It's not, quote unquote, socialized health care like a lot of people like to dumb American citizens down. It just don't cost as much. OK, and let's look into this now.
Good question. And it's a nuanced one, because most Western European nations do have some form of copay system, but it's usually much smaller, more regulated and less burdensome than the US model. Let's break it down clearly. Leicester, Western European nations with co-payments or cost sharing. Most Western EU nations require some out-of-pocket contribution, copay, deductible or co-insurance. So
that right there bust this whole thing that MAGA Mike Johnson and Republicans like to say about socialism. How the hell is it socialism when part of it is a copay, when you actually have to pay for parts of it? See, they didn't tell you that. But even while you're paying for parts of it out of your own pocket, that's not subsidized by your taxes. Even while you're doing that in Western Europe, you're paying way less for health care, way less for treatment, way less for all of these things. It's simple. It's simple. The only reason why you as an American would not know is because you as an American have refused yourself as an individual who, by the way, you have fucking responsibility for your individual ass because you pay taxes. You should have known this yourself already, so no politician can just talk bullshit to you. I mean, you can do that on your spare time.
For doctor visits, prescriptions or hospital stays. But these are heavily capped and often income adjusted.
But these are heavily capped and often income adjusted. I wonder why that is. So everybody can get access and everybody can pay into it. So it works for everybody. Sounds like a system that works for everybody is probably stronger than one that doesn't. But let's continue.
Country copay cost sharing? How it works? Yes. France. Yes. Small copays. Ticket moderateur for doctor visits, usually 1 to 25 euro, and medications. Most people have complementary insurance that reimburses nearly all of it. Germany, yes.
That's what I was saying. That private thing that you can get on the side, yeah, because a lot of people have that too. you get that back. So that means you're paying even less than that 25 for doctor visits. Sometimes that's 25 euro. How much do you pay in the United States for a doctor visit right now? Let me know with your insurance plan. Let me know what state you live in, and let me know how much you pay for a doctor's visit right now. That would be part of the copay system. I'm not sure if it's all, but I know I got family members that pay, that have these U.S. healthcare programs, Medicaid, Medicare, and whatever it's called in the local, on the ground, and they have to pay out of the pocket every time they go to a doctor. So, having said that, how much do you pay to go see your doctor on your doctor's visit? I'm just curious. Let's share money. Let's share information. Let me know. How much do you pay? How much do you pay for a doctor's visit? It gets lower across Europe. It could vary across Europe. I'm not paying jack shit really for a doctor's visit. The doctor gets paid, but it's already part of the national healthcare system we have in Denmark. But it does cost a percentage, and later I'm going to show you here right now what it costs per person generally anyway, whether it's in the tax system or not. It's still much cheaper here. Okay, $80. Okay, UK. Yeah, UK is one of the good ones. It's the strong. As far as healthcare, UK is, people pay very little in the UK. Let me know what state you're in also, state or country that is. Yeah, healthcare in the U.S. is insane. Okay, I appreciate that, Liam. Thank you. Let me see here. Okay, Michael says, Michael, what state you in, by the way? $80 for that visit. Eric says about 50 to 150. Okay, it depends, right? I hear you. Keep going. I'm going to let a few other people. Let me know how much you pay for your doctor's visits, in terms of that copay in the U.S. I'm going to let this run a little bit.
Some copays, e.g. €10 a day for hospital stays up to 28 days, small pharmacy fees, but preventive and essential care are free at the point of use. Netherlands, yes, everyone pays an annual deductible, tot €385, after which insurance covers costs. Some copays for drugs and dental care. Belgium, yes, patients pay up front and are reimbursed 75 to 85% by insurance. Remaining balance is the copay ticket morateur. Switzerland, yes, not EU but Western Europe. Private mandatory insurance with annual deductible and 10% coinsurance. Copays can be significant compared to the EU norm. Austria, yes, small copays for doctor visits, prescriptions and hospital stays, usually 6 to 15. Luxembourg, yes, patients pay 20 to 40% of costs but are reimbursed afterward. Children and low-income people often pay nothing. Italy, yes, copays, ticket sanitario for specialists, diagnostic tests and drugs, but free for low-income groups and essential care. Spain limited, no copays for doctor visits or hospitalization. Some copays 10 to 60% for medications based on income. Portugal limited, small copays for emergency rooms and some outpatient services waived for vulnerable groups. Ireland, yes, GP visits and prescriptions have out-of-pocket costs unless you have a medical card. Hospital stays capped per year.
You know something? Now check this out. Michael just said something interesting. He said, my work pretty much covers the deductible though. And guess what, Mike? Now you tell me, wouldn't a company, if it could, just because of management, if the healthcare system was managed better in the US, right? And it wasn't the most expensive of all Western countries, way more expensive, wouldn't they be interested, like your boss, in having a cheaper copay, a cheaper deductible? Wouldn't they like that? Wouldn't that be good for business? Why would a company want to pay more for a deductible for healthcare for their employee than they have to fucking pay, than it's necessary to pay? Like, you just let me know what you think about that idea, because I don't see how more moderate costs and fairer costs, and basically, let's just be honest, better managed healthcare so that it's affordable for everybody in general across the board would be a problem for companies that cover their employees' healthcare. Let's see here. Let me know what you think.
NHS generally free at the point of service. Only prescription charges, £9 per item in England. None in Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. Countries with essentially no US-style copay. None in Western Europe match the US model, where patients face large deductibles, 1,000, 10,000 a year, high co-insurance, 20 to 40%, and unpredictable billing. Even where co-pays exist, European systems cap annual out-of-pocket spending and ban surprise billing. If we
You hear that? Now you hear that, right? They banned surprise billing in Western EU countries. They have banned surprised billing. Yes, that is interesting. Even where copays exist, although the copays are pretty much cheaper than in the US, in Europe, they have a cap out of pocket spending. Cap, meaning there's a limit to how much you could be charged for a visit, right? In a copay. And they ban surprise billing outright. Just a thought, just something for people that want to know about this shutdown conversation, the things that Marjorie Greene Taylor is talking about, the thing that, Maga Mike Johnson is talking about, the thing that Hakeem Jeffries and Democrats are talking about, Schumer. This is give you some background on it. Now, just a few other things here.
20 to 40%.
Let me just get to the next part.
Even where copay. Here's a comparison of the US versus typical Western EU healthcare spending, particularly focusing on out-of-pocket, OOP, and how much households pay, plus what share that is of total healthcare spending. Sources vary in how they define copay OOP, but these give good approximate benchmarks. United States, metric, value, out-of-pocket spending per person, $504 in 2023. Healthsystemtracker.org. Out-of-pocket spending as percent of total health spending, POG is 10% in 2023. Statranker.org. Total health spending per capita, $12,555. OECD average adjustment in recent years.
Yo, and now they're saying with this thing, if it doesn't get changed, if this beautiful bill that the Republicans passed, if it doesn't get changed, keep in mind this data is from 22, 23. You're expected to pay that 12 on average is expected to go up to 25,000 in on an average scenario. It could be a lot more for others. That's just crazy. Meanwhile, across Europe, it will pretty much remain closer to where it is now. So that was just some background on that for people to think about. While ICE won't get paid, while the military won't get paid, while the National Guard won't get paid, this is some of the background to why they won't get paid. Because Republicans want every American, including ICE, who only make like $80,000 fucking dollars a year, which ain't a whole lot for a single person. You better be married. And if you have kids, that ain't going that far. And you better travel an hour a day to work, if you want to make that last. But again, National Guard family members, what's up with them? Do their family members count? How you going to pay that? How you going to pay that health insurance fee? So again, Democrats seem like, if you ask me, it seems like they're fighting for your families. They seem like they're fighting for everybody's goddamn family to be able to afford health care, and not just the poor people, because even with this, a whole lot of poor people, this shit don't even include at all. In the United States of America, like 8% do not have health care right now under this current plan. You see, 8% do not have health care at all. So they're not the burden that you're talking about paying. What's happening is that these ICE agents, these National Guard members, these military people, these, and everybody else, the teachers, the doctors, the trash men, the people that come to do any type of job, the printer, the guy that works at the printer, office, the person that works, in what other business, the guy who has a used car business, the person who has, the mother who has a, who provides any, just whatever. Any average person is going to pay 20 to 60% more for their health care. $25,000. Most of you, including ICE, cannot afford. You can't afford it. You can't afford it. Like, it's not going to happen. You better understand me. Loads of people and loads of companies, even companies that pay for healthcare for employed people, they're not going to be able to do it. This is a problem for everyone. Every American should be against that bill, that big, beautiful, ugly bill. Every American, regardless of your political affiliation or not, this is just about sanity versus insanity. Like straight up. Like straight up. Do you want to stay in your home if someone in your family gets sick? Yes or no? If you want to stay in your home when someone in your family gets sick, then you want the Democrats to hold the line. If you fucking don't, if you want to be out of a house, out on the street, going to work while you watch your kids suffer, ICE agent, then if you want to watch that happen to you, which it does happen to you, then you just say to the Democrats, hey, man, forget this shit, man. Just open the government back up and agree with the Republicans as it is, and you will be fine. Now, there was something before we get into the most serious thing, which all this shit is serious, really. All of this stuff is serious. There was a beautiful speech given by Letitia James. Folks need to hear a little bit of it, so we're going to hear a little bit of it right now. This was in New York City. Yo, somebody just said the military still gets paid in the shutdown. Please do some research. Please do yourself some research. That's if you're an American citizen. Again, if you're not an American citizen, you don't need to know these things, these particulars. Although for fact-based folks that like to talk about the news and what's going on, it's interesting. But if you're an American citizen, you might want to know that the military is not getting paid today unless the House reaches an agreement. They're not getting paid. Just so you know. Also, ICE won't be getting paid. Many people in the federal government won't be getting paid. You just need to know that. And again, this is an issue just for American citizens who, need to have a job. Some of you still live with your parents, so maybe that's why you're not concerned. Some of you may be trolls. Maybe that it really doesn't concern you. Maybe you like American citizens being confused. But if you're an American citizen and you just believe somebody and you didn't research your shit yourself, you are a goddamn fool, especially if you pay federal taxes.
I love you. I love you.
Trump, the only thing that's happening here is Trump can make a maneuver to allocate part of the funding for the military. Yeah, that's true. But he's going to have to do it. But keep in mind, it isn't done yet. See, that's the difference in your statement. It hasn't been done yet. You need to have it done. And you haven't seen any of the news talk about it. You haven't seen Trump announce it, and you haven't seen the House announce it. But in any case, that would be a good thing if he did that, but he hasn't done it yet. Keep in mind, that doesn't cover ICE. that doesn't cover the National Guard. So just worth the conversation. There was a bill last week on the floor to pay the military. MAGA Mike Johnson said, no, we're not going to do it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate.
Just for people that don't know, Bob, let me just let people know this is another consistent misinformed view. Of course, the talking points of the Republicans, which is not actually what they're doing, the devil's in the detail, and you owe yourself and your family better than talking points. The Republican talking points are that we just don't want illegals to get paid. But if you've been listening to everyone else, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, what this is about is something else. There's no illegals. This whole thing about illegals getting health care is bullshit, because guess what they're doing? They're actually trying to say, they're talking about emergency care. They're talking about if an accident happens on the street and an ambulance comes and picks you up. Do you want them asking you for your ID or not? If a robber comes, finds you on the street, steals your wallet, shoots you in the head, Bob, runs off with your identification, Bob, do you want the emergency ambulance taking you to the hospital, or do you literally want them trying to confirm your ID before giving you emergency care, Bob? That's what they're talking about when they're saying illegals are getting health care. And all the Doctors Association of the United States of America and across Western Europe said this is ridiculous, because you will harm more citizens getting emergency care than you will keep illegals off of the medical care. So this is really what the issue was. It was a red herring, Bob, as Mike Johnson likes to say. And guess what, Bob? If they get it your way, hundreds and hundreds of times more Americans won't get in a fucking ambulance when they have an accident, bro. That's literally what it's about.
Appreciate you, and I've got your back. Yeah. I love you more. So good evening, everyone. It is so good to be here with all of you, standing with my very good friend, my little brother, and one of the boldest voices in the history of New York politics, Zohran Mamdani. We are here tonight because we are ready to turn the page on the cynical, broken politics of the past. We are ready to build a city that works for the people who actually make it run. Working people, the teachers, the nurses, the drivers, the home health aides, the firefighters, the police, not just for those at the top, but for working people who built this city from the ground up.
All right, so I could see there's some people that they believe anything that Trump says. And of course, that is a MAGA, standard. Just believe what Trump tells you, and it must be true. So for the sake of people that want to know, what has Trump done or claimed in the current shutdown? In the current shutdown 2025, which began October 1st, for those that don't know, Trump has directed the Department of Defense to use all available funds to ensure troops are paid, even during the shutdown. Who has reported on that? AP News, Associated Press. For those that don't know, you can just Google AP News, shutdown, military, Donald Trump, and you will get this information. The plan reporting, and this is what I'm reading from AP News now, the plan reportedly involves repurposing or redirecting unobligated funds from the Pentagon's Research, Development, Testing, and Evaluation RDT&E accounts, about $8 billion of unobligated funds to issue military paychecks if the shutdown continues. Reuters and other press have reported on this. Just in case you want to know, you can Google Reuters, Associated Press, Trump, military shutdown. Are they getting paid? However, here's a big however, you guys. This might matter to you MAGA people that just listen to Trump and believe. This could be a lesson in just believing, knowing the difference between what's happened and what has been promised and has not happened. You might want to know that whether you favor Trump or Biden. You want to know the difference between what has been promised and what has not happened. However, he has not signed a new appropriations bill specifically for paying the military in this shutdown. Congress has not passed, or he has not signed a military pay law in this context. News reporting indicates that Pay Our Military Act type bill is not being taken up now. Duh! So you have to understand something. Congress has the oversight. They're the ones that pay the bills. Also, there is some legal uncertainty about whether using the R&D funds for military pay in this way is consistent with federal law. Guess what? Especially the Anti-Deficiency Act, which generally prohibits spending funds not appropriated by Congress. And it gets worse because I'm going to tell you, the last thing that we're going to cover here is something that Steve Miller said and choked up on camera, something that Vance just spoke about the other day on camera also, and we're going to get into the definitions of that. So conclusion, Trump has not so far signed a new law that specifically ensures that they get paid in the shutdown. He has ordered the Defense Department to make payments by redirecting existing funds if legally permissible. That's what he said, if it's legally permissible. That's his own words. In other words, he's looking for options. He doesn't know what the options are yet. And guess what? That's very noble to look for options. Guess what? That's a great thing if you are looking for options, right? If they're legal. However, if you do not find the options, today is the day you might want to clear that up, because today is the day those checks don't go out. So it's no need to make believe something that doesn't exist. Trump has not yet come up with a plan to actually execute. He has not executed the payment of any military members. Now, if that happens today, that would be a wonderful thing if legal, right? Because if it's not legal, then it ain't going to happen. They still have to follow laws. You see, you just can't do anything you want. Why? Because Congress is the one that pays. They're the ones that hold the purse, and they have laws written around all of it. The executive branch executes the laws. They don't write the laws. So just for people to know. So in any case, but we're going to follow up because there's a term folks need to know that they heard mentioned. Here we go.
And we are living through twin crises, a crisis of affordability and a crisis of wage stagnation. Rent is up, and yes, it is too damn high. Growth.
Okay, so Letitia James, was that statement correct? If groceries are up and rent is too goddamn high, put a 1 in the chat. If she's not telling the truth and those are false statements, put a 2 in the chat. Just curious.
Groceries cost more, and too many families are living from one paycheck to the next. And childcare is too expensive, and too many New Yorkers are leaving the city because of failed policies of this city and state. And at the same time, we see powerful voices trying to silence truth and punish dissent, and yes, weaponize justice for political gain. 'Cause 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 democracy, the erosion of our system of government. This, my friends, is a defining moment in our history. Let us stand together to defend our rights, to protect every safeguard, every institution, every immigrant.
Somebody said Letitia James should be, look at this. He said Letitia James should be in jail. People leaving New York because of high taxes. What the hell do the high taxes have to do with Letitia James? She just prosecuted somebody who evaded taxes, who literally scammed New Yorkers. And you got him as a president. And now he's coming after her for prosecuting people like that. And she didn't just prosecute Trump for that shit. She's prosecuted thousands of people for evading and committing fraud inside of New York City. Are you out of your mind? You crazy, man. You crazy.
Every norm and every rule of law. You see, I know what it feels like to be attacked for just doing your job. But I also know what it feels like to overcome adversity. And so I stand on solid rock. And I will not bow. I will not break. I will not bend. I will not capitulate. I will not give in. I will not give up. You come for me, you gotta come to all of us. All of us. Every single one of us. We're all in this together.
Damn, she's very defiant, and that's good to hear a voice like that with passion, And I do believe in the end, the passion is going to wake people up. Dems need to hear passion. Americans need to hear passion about the cost of living, the cost of healthcare. They need to hear passion about drunkards like Pete Hegseth all of a sudden allowing Qatar to have a military base in the heart of America. They need to hear passion about people that are like, damn, why are you allowing the wealthiest man on earth to get access to the treasury, get access to people's private information? That would be Elon Musk. Why are we subsidizing? Why are we socializing the richest man on earth's businesses in the United States of America? Why are we subsidizing others like Peter Thiel? Why are we subsidizing with our tax dollars people like Elon Musk when he's got 3 different passports? We need to be passionate about this. We need to be passionate about why we're subsidizing Peter Thiel's businesses in the United States of America when he has 3 different passports. Where does his loyalty lie? Is it in 3 different nations or is it in one, the United States of America? We need to be passionate, and things are going to get passionate, yo.
You see, I've learned to stand on the shoulders of my ancestors who've been before, who came before me and weathered the storm. And despite being seared with scars, they survived. And if they can survive, so will we. So over the last few days, I've summoned their strength and their courage. And I will keep fighting for justice. I will keep fighting for New Yorkers. I will keep fighting the aggressive policies of Washington, D.C., and I will not stop. I won't give up, and I won't give in. So we have no time to linger and focus on pettiness and revenge. We've got to press on, press forward, Continue the journey. Claim the victory. Triumph over fear and courage. Courage, my friend, is resistance to fear. And so I fear no man. I see the courage that is embodied in Zoran. And that's why I am supporting him. He is a leader fighting for a better future for this city. And he, like me, knows what it's like to be attacked, to be called names, to be threatened, to be harassed. And each and every day he wakes up with this fire in his belly because he wants to build a better New York. He recognizes that justice is more than just a word, that justice must be made real, that there are people struggling each and every day in this city. And all you have to do is drive around in this city and see all of the lines in the food pantries.
Okay, so
and all
you
of
get the
those
point. Folks should look into Letitia James's speech that she gave last night for Zoran, the next mayor of New York. It was a great speech. I was like really inspired by it. But 2 seconds, let me check something out here. Okay, so now I could see in the chat, people like to make fun of people's voices, Letitia James. Letitia James, she's an African American. Her ancestors go back to before the Civil War in the United States of America. She's from New York. If you're not familiar with a New Yorker's accent, people that grow up in New York, it's kind of weird that you would think her accent is kind of funny. But just to keep in mind, what we are actually literally dealing with when we talk about accents, because we had to hear a speech done by Donald J. Trump's wife, and I could barely understand a word of it, and it is just it's okay to have different accents. I'm cool with it, but I just noticed MAGA supporters never talk about her accent, and her English is fucking horrible. Her English is horrible. And by God, let me try to find where the hell is this at? Let me pull this up real quick. Let me see something. Am I here? Here we go. Let me pull this video up just to illustrate the difference in the accent before we get on to the last point here. Let's see. Where is this at? Come on. Oops, got to pull that off. Okay, now let me pull up just to give you some contrast between Letitia James, and it's interesting. Some people always have to climb a higher bar, more steps before they're given the same amount of respect, right? Melania has zero experience in nothing outside of being a model, but MAGA people never talk about her accent at all, right? It's not even an issue for them, even though she can barely get a goddamn word out of her mouth. And yet Letitia James, she's the top attorney for New York State, New York City, the biggest city in the country. That job is enormous, right? That is an enormous job. And folks just try to pretend like she really hasn't earned her stripes. And as we know, that's impossible. She's not a DEI. DEI doesn't mean you're not qualified, nor should it ever mean that. What it should mean is that you recognize the history of the country you live in and you come from. That's what it should mean. And for a lot of people, they don't recognize the history of the country they live in or come from. And that's always been a problem in the United States of America, although it's getting better, right? But let me pull this.
I'm going to turn now to another conflict overseas, the war in Ukraine, where Russia conducted a massive series of strikes to Ukrainian infrastructure overnight, leaving hundreds of thousands without power in Kyiv, damaging an apparent block, and killing 1 and injuring 20 in the southeastern region of the country. That's according to Ukrainian authorities. Approaches and temperatures fall. Meanwhile, at the White House, First Lady Melania Trump announced she has been working with Russian President Putin to return Ukrainian children who were kidnapped into Russia during the war. For more on this, NBC White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez joins me now. Gabe, thanks so much for being here. So what more did we hear from the First Lady today?
Children separated from their families during the war in Ukraine. Let's listen to some of what she had to say.
President Putin and I have had an open channel of communication regarding the welfare of these children. For the past 3 months, both sides have participated in several back-channel meetings and calls, all in good faith.
The administration has been seriously discussing invoking the Insurrection Act. That would give the president the power to direct federal troops to conduct law enforcement functions in the case of a national emergency. Is that the case? Are you seriously considering invoking the Insurrection Act?
Well, the president's looking at all of his options. Right now, he hasn't felt he needed to, but we have to remember, why are we talking about this, Kristen? Because crime has gotten out of control in our cities. The problem here is not the Insurrection Act or whether we actually invoke it or not. The problem is the fact that the entire media in this country, cheered on by a few far-left lunatics, have made it okay to tee off on American law enforcement. Yeah. And we're exploring everything that we can do to make sure that the American people are safe.
Thank you so much for joining us, by the way. You've called the district judge's ruling blocking the deployment of National Guard in Oregon legal insurrection. Does the administration still plan to abide by that ruling?
Well, the administration filed an appeal this morning with the Ninth Circuit. I would note the administration won an identical case in the Ninth Circuit just a few months ago with respect to the federalizing of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen? Stephen? Hey, Stephen. Hey, Stephen, can you hear me? Stephen? You've called the district judge's ruling blocking the deployment of National Guard in Oregon legal insurrection. Does the administration still plan to abide by that ruling?
Well, the administration filed an appeal this morning with the Ninth Circuit. I would note the administration won an identical case in the Ninth Circuit just a few months ago with respect to the federalizing of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen? Stephen? Hey, Stephen, can you hear me? Abide by that ruling?
Well, the administration filed an appeal this morning with the Ninth Circuit. I would note the administration won an identical case in the Ninth Circuit just a few months ago with respect to the federalizing of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen? Stephen? Hey, Stephen, can you hear me? It seemed, Stephen, I apologize. It seems like we're having a technical issue. We'll try to fix that and get back to you after.
Absolutely. Here's the corrected version of the report with clean spelling and formatting throughout. Hashtag Title 10 of the United States Code and Plenary Power. 1. Title 10 of the United States Code, USC. Title 10 is the section of federal law that governs the organization, operation, and authority of the U.S. Armed Forces. It serves as the legal foundation for how the Department of Defense, DoD, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and Space Force are structured and managed. Key points. Defines the roles of each military branch. Outlines powers of the President and Secretary of Defense over the armed forces. Provides the legal basis for the National Guard, reserves, and mobilization during war or national emergency. Includes the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ, which is the military's criminal code. Example sections. 10 USC, paragraph 162, gives the President authority to assign combatant commands and define their missions. 10 USC 12304 allows the President to activate reserve forces without declaring a national emergency. In short, Title 10 equals the legal rule book for the U.S. military's structure, authority, and conduct. 2. Plenary power. Plenary power means full, complete, or absolute authority within a specific area of law or governance. In U.S. constitutional law, plenary power refers to authority that is not limited by outside checks, except the Constitution itself. Examples. Congress has plenary power over immigration and naturalization. Based on the Constitution forces without declaring a national emergency. In short, Title 10 equals the legal rule book for the U.S. military's structure, authority, and conduct. 2. Plenary power. Plenary power means full, complete, or absolute authority within a specific area of law or governance. In U.S. constitutional law, plenary power refers to authority that is not limited by outside checks, except the Constitution itself. Examples. Congress has plenary power over immigration and naturalization based on the Constitution's necessary and proper and commerce clauses. States have plenary power over matters not reserved for the federal government, such as education or local law enforcement. The President may exercise plenary powers in certain military or foreign affairs contexts, though still subject to oversight by Congress and the courts. So, when someone says a government official or institution has plenary power, it means, open quote, they have full authority to act in that area, unless the Constitution or a specific law restricts it. Close quote. 3. How they relate. Title 10 sets the legal framework for the military. Plenary power describes the extent of authority the President, Congress, or states may have in certain areas. For example, Open quote. The President exercises certain plenary powers under Title 10 when directing the armed forces as Commander-in-Chief. Close quote. Would you like me to expand this into a short summary of how Title 10 plenary powers have been used? Excellent question. This gets right to the heart of the US constitutional balance of power. Let's break it down clearly and precisely. Plenary powers of Congress and the states, beyond executive interference. The US Constitution divides powers among the three branches of government: legislative, Congress, executive, president, and judicial, courts. However, some powers are plenary, meaning exclusive and complete within their domain, and therefore cannot be interfered with by the executive branch, the president or federal agencies. Part 1. Plenary powers of Congress. Congress's plenary powers come directly from Article 1 of the Constitution. When Congress acts within these powers, the President cannot override or interfere, except through a lawful veto or constitutional challenge. Key plenary powers of Congress. 1. Power of the purse, Article 1, Section 9. Congress alone can raise and spend money, levy taxes, and appropriate funds. The President cannot spend or redirect money without congressional authorization. Example, the Supreme Court has repeatedly ruled that the President cannot use funds for purposes Congress has explicitly denied. See Train v. City of New York, 420 U.S. 35, 1975. 2. Power to declare war, Article 1, Section 8. Only Congress can formally declare war or authorize military force. The President as Commander-in-Chief can direct military operations, but only within the scope Congress authorizes. 3. Power to regulate commerce, Article 1, Section 8. Congress has plenary authority over interstate and foreign commerce. The executive cannot unilaterally change trade rules, tariffs, or embargoes unless Congress has delegated specific powers. Four, power of impeachment and removal, Articles 1 and 2. Congress can impeach and remove executive officials, including the President. This is one of the most direct examples of a plenary power beyond presidential control. 5. Legislative oversight and subpoena power. Congress can investigate and demand documents, testimony from executive officials. The President cannot block this oversight without invoking lawful privilege, and even that can be limited by courts. 2. Plenary powers of the states. The states' plenary powers stem from the 10th Amendment, which says, open quote, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. Close quote. That means states hold broad, inherent powers over most areas of daily life. Unless the Constitution explicitly gives that power to the federal government. Key plenary powers of states. 1. Police powers. States have plenary authority to make and enforce laws concerning health, safety, welfare, and morals, e.g. criminal laws, public health mandates, zoning, licensing. The President cannot override state police powers unless federal law clearly preempts them. 2. Elections and voting administration. Article 1, Section 4. States control how elections are conducted. Registration, voting systems, polling locations, etc. The executive branch cannot change these processes, even during emergencies, unless Congress passes a law and courts uphold it. 3. Education and local governance. States have full authority over public education, school systems, and municipal governance. The federal government can influence policy through funding, but cannot impose direct control. 4. Property, marriage, and civil law. States define and regulate property rights, marriage, contracts, and inheritance. Federal law generally does not interfere unless constitutional rights are at stake. 5. Law enforcement. States control their police forces, prosecutors, and National Guard units, when not federalized. The President cannot command state police or prosecutors except in rare circumstances, e.g. invoking the insurrection. The executive branch, President. President, agencies, and military is bound by Congress's statutes when validly enacted, judicial review, which can strike down executive overreach, the Constitution, which limits unilateral executive actions. Even in emergencies, courts have reaffirmed that the President cannot override congressional or state plenary powers without lawful basis. Historical examples: Youngstown Sheet and Tube Co. v. Sawyer, 1952. The Supreme Court blocked President Truman from seizing steel mills during the Korean War because Congress had not authorized it, showing the limits of executive power over private and state functions. NFIB Sebelius, 2012, affirmed that Congress could regulate health care under its taxing power, but that states could not be forced to expand Medicaid, preserving state plenary power over health care decisions. Summary table, power area, holder, plenary. Can executive interfere? States appropriation spending, Congress, yes, no. Declaring war, Congress, yes, no. Impeachment, Congress, yes, no. Police power, health safety, states, yes. Elections, states, yes, no. Education, states, yes, no. Commanding armed forces, President, within limits. Partial, within Title 10 only. Foreign affairs, President, shared with Congress. Partial, limited by treaties and law. Would you like me to include specific constitutional?
Thank you so much for joining us, by the way. You've called the district judge's ruling blocking the deployment of National Guard in Oregon legal insurrection. Does the administration still plan to abide by that ruling?
Well, the administration filed an appeal this morning with the Ninth Circuit. I would note the administration won an identical case in the Ninth Circuit just a few months ago with respect to the federalizing of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen? Stephen? Hey, Stephen, can you hear me? It seemed, Stephen, I apologize. It seems like we're having a technical issue. We'll try to fix that and get back to you after.
Yo, it's not you. Sorry about that, Bits. Yo, sorry about that. In any case, thanks for letting me know, actually. Yeah. Now here's the thing. I just wanted to review that because people need to know when he says plenary power, folks need to know the president's not the only one that has plenary power. And the way Stephen Miller talks about it, he talks about it like that's something exclusive to the executive branch. Wrong, it's not. The executive branch is not the only branch of government that has plenary powers. He's using the word like it's like some magic wand or something. No, it's not. That's just what the law states. What is the executive branch allowed to do? What is Congress allowed to do without interference? What are states allowed to do without interference? Now, you can see if you just look up plenary laws, plenary power, you could already see Donald Trump in this administration, they've overstepped plenary powers of Congress or of states. They're trying to overstep plenary powers of Congress. Congress is the one that controls the purse. So when they say, oh, I can just go out there and take funds from one place and give it to make sure that the military gets paid, are you sure about that? Are you sure that you're not overstepping plenary powers of Congress? Because different branches of government have plenary powers for under different circumstances for different reasons. And so that's the whole point. The other thing is, when people hear plenary power, they should also think immediately Supreme Court. So if this guy wants to get around plenary powers, he is going to have to invoke the Insurrection Act. And the Insurrection Act, any invocation of the Insurrection Act is going to go straight to the Supreme Court. And if it is allowed to go past 24 hours, it will be the Supreme Court's fault. People have to understand that. It will be the Supreme Court's fault. And so, folks, in my book, we need to get ahead of that. He said this. I'm pretty sure he didn't mean to say it because he doesn't want people knowing what their plan is. Obviously, they have an argument. Their argument is going to be plenary powers, and then it's going to be the invocation of the Insurrection Act. And listen, this is why I put these two clips together. Look, this is what it is right here. J.D. Vance says one thing. Listen to the arguments. You just listen carefully and read between the lines. 1 week, Stephen Miller says plenary powers. This is just a week ago, 10 days ago. Right after that, J.D. Vance comes out and says Insurrection Act.
The administration has been seriously discussing invoking the Insurrection Act. That would give the president the power to direct federal troops to conduct law enforcement functions in the case of a national emergency. Is that the case? Are you seriously considering invoking the Insurrection Act?
Well, the president's looking at all of his options. Right now, he hasn't felt he needed to, but we have to remember, why are we talking about this, Kristen? Because crime has gotten out of control in our cities.
So he's laying out the argument for invocating what? For getting around what? Plenary powers. He's laying out his argument to invoke the Insurrection Act. And the first thing he states is crime has gotten out of control.
Why are we talking about this, Kristen? Because crime has gotten out of control in our cities.
Crime has gotten out of control in our cities. Okay.
The problem here is not the Insurrection Act or whether we actually invoke it or not. The problem is the fact that the entire media.
No, the problem is whether you invoke it. The fact that you would even mention the Insurrection Act is a problem.
Media in this country.
Then he shifts over to the media, to the First Amendment. You see this? You see? Okay, so if you want to get around the First Amendment, you're getting around the Constitution. He's claiming the Insurrection Act already by trying to limit the media. Folks need to pay attention here.
Cheered on by a few far-left lunatics have made it
by a few far-left lunatics. So a few is not a great number. Just keep in mind.
To tee off on American law enforcement. Yeah. And we're exploring everything that we can do to make sure that the American people are safe.
So to make the American people safe, the only tools they have, since they really haven't done much, is the Insurrection Act. So this regime gets into power and they say, we're going to use the most extreme means to solve any problem and to do anything. We're not going to use moderate means. We're not going to work with states. We're not going to, because working with states would mean what? You actually listen to them. You know, they would listen to you, but you listen to them before you take any action. You consider their expertise, right? But this dude is just taking the most extreme version. So you may as well say, you know, because a more extreme version of this would be like, hey, the United States is a cancer and Trump should just drop a nuclear bomb on it and start all over, right? I mean, why not? Why not just eliminate all the people and start all over and just go to, you know, Elon Musk and his test tube babies and just start over, go to robots, you know, raise a new species. I mean, this is literally, this might be the kind of shit Elon Musk wants, actually. But listen to Stephen Miller now. This is just a week before J.D. Vance gives his Insurrection Act speech. Listen.
So much for joining us, by the way. You've called the district judge's ruling blocking the deployment of National Guard in Oregon legal insurrection. Does the administration still plan to abide by that ruling?
Well, the administration filed an appeal this morning with the Ninth Circuit. I would note that.
Okay, the appeal didn't go through.
Note the administration won an identical case in the Ninth Circuit just a few months ago with respect.
Right, but it still didn't go through this time.
To the federalizing of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen? Stephen? Hey, Stephen, can you hear me? It seemed, Stephen, I apologize.
It's because he just told people the reason why they don't have the authority is because of plenary power. I mean, this guy is such a jackass. He just undermined his own, his own arguments, And so in any case, Supreme Court, if they want to invoke the Insurrection Act, they would have to go to the Supreme Court. And of course, they've laid out their arguments. J.D. Vance having a big mouth, Steve Miller having a big mouth. They've already let the cat out of the bag in terms of what they want to do. Do those arguments help in a shutdown? Do those arguments help Dems say, hey, you know what? We shouldn't be so testy about this big, beautiful, ugly bill. Let's just let Republicans increase health care 20 to 60%. I mean, do these things that J.D. Vance say or Stephen Miller help convince Dems that they should decide to support the Republican bill and finance it? Or does it work against supporting that Republican bill and finance it? You tell me what you think. Invoking the Insurrection Act and, violating states' own plenary power, violating Congress's own plenary powers does for an argument to help the situation. On that note, I'm out, y'all. I appreciate everybody. Y'all be good. I'll be back in a few. Everybody, please have a good day. Take care of each other. Love your neighbors. Be kind to your neighbors. Let's get through this moment and also exercise all your rights. First, Second, Third, Fourth Amendment, and on and on and on. Be proud to be an American and understand that, the power lies in your hands ultimately. So peace.
They want war. Crime babies looking for food. Starvation, the recipe. People subdued. When the people you trust got it in for you. Deceit is the word of the day and every clue. Don't let it go. It's from the days of old. Time is up, but some still do not know. Can I make up my mind? Is it worth the dime? Do I have to take a minute just to make it mine? Life's never fair, but don't listen to the TV. Go out and take a listen to the streets with the people in the slums and the homeless bums with degrees and degrees sitting under a tree. It's not easy in the world for the poor man, the one that brought to reality. reality, see. They don't want you to know about the black sheep. Leaving 7 roads to the 12 families all around the globe with an ancient code. Is it really asking a lot to say a death old? Cause we sitting on the earth looking back at extinct. And I'm standing on some ground that's about to sink. I ain't scared for a minute, I ain't about to blink. But I documented for the world what I see and think. Feel we on the call and up and we on the break. All Congress gonna do is waste paper and ink. Vote or die. You voted and you'll die. You can have it both ways, can't say it's a lie. You can march all you want, but they playing you wrong. They only understand war, it's the same old song. They want war, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more. But they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. War, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more. But they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. Like a lotus coming out of the mud with colors, I create envy in those with power but jealous. I unify the poor with my song, the hell with the others. Descended the way they treat indigenous brothers. Cause I understand we link forever. They try to hate us even though that we keep it together. I'm not talking about controlling the air or the weather. I'm talking about maintaining the truth, the high endeavor. A rebel drops bombs in the midst of trouble. The free world counterattack and now there's double. But nature gets the shit in a way that's subtle. If you stop the machines for a minute you might hear. But they won't cause the TVs whisper in the ear. And capitalism has eyes that don't tear. And they cloud up and get crazy and won't steer. And like an ab, it's hard to get an ass to listen. Living like this is like living in prison. It's hard to keep hope when you're living in prison. The spiritual thoughts, so yes, the mental prison. The outside, yes, it's got to get through. Something's gotta die, so something here can live. Your life is nothing if you got nothing to give. Keeping the spiritual, yes, disguised as religion. Controlling your mind, the mental prison. They want war, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more. But they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. War, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more. But they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war.
Release the Epstein files.